Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Crypto Dark Pod, presented by Blockchange Solidarity Media. We're a team of crypto sleuths ready to dive into these thick crypto weeds. We are not afraid to expose the darkness and deceptions that run rampant in crypto. From government and corporate tyranny to the scammy scammers and celebrity influencers, the Crypto Dark Pod team is more than ready to explore all the systematic and psychological tactics, the tricks and misdirection deployed on this new blockchain technology that makes prey of everyday people on the regular. We must be informed and vigilant. Together, we can learn to defend ourselves from these scamming hijackers, which is why we at the Crypto Dark Pod invite you to join us on our exploration into the dark sides of the blockchain. Go get your flashlight.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Crypto Dark Pod. Almost forgot the name of it there. Welcome, everyone. You're here with me, Alex, from Blockchain Solidarity Pod, and Pudding/Buckcoins, and Kyle also joining. Luke is the other co-host on this pod, but he's still really sick. He's not able to join us for this opening episode. Anyone who's familiar with Blockchain Solidarity Pod, you probably already heard the intro ep we did a couple of weeks ago. We had the guys on to just introduce this new pod, but now this is the actual first episode of the pod. So we may have some of you listening from that last episode on Blockchange, or we may have new listeners who just want to catch the first episode of Crypto Dark Pod. Whoever you are, you're welcome. But let's introduce what this pod's going to be about, and then we'll get stuck into the episode. We've got such a good episode coming up for you. We've picked an absolutely fascinating scam to start us off, which brings out so many of the different themes that we want to get into. But let's talk about that in a little bit. Let's introduce who we have, just in case some of you are listening and haven't got that last Blockchain Solidarity yet. So we have Pudding/Buckcoins and Kyle. Pudding, do you want to start us off? Introduce yourself. Tell the audience what your background is. What brought you to be fascinated about getting involved in this project?
Hey there, yeah. I'm called Buckcoins, and I made another second name, which is Pudding Proof, which the proof is in the pudding. So I've kind of always been interested in the scam side of things. Buckcoins in and of itself, that name kind of came from like the I just sort of felt Bitcoin, Buckcoins, it all felt so fake to me when I was first going into it. I was like, what is this? It's like coins that they're pulling out of their butts, So that was kind of like the start anyway. So I've always had this skeptical side, but I also have a revolutionary spirit towards the what I want for my kids and the future of humanity. So there's this strange balance where it attracts all these scammers into the crypto space, but there's so much potential for a better future. So I'm trying to balance those two worlds and find my own path within it, right?
Yeah, awesome. And so many of us feel like that, don't we? Like, where there is that sort of optimism around blockchain, but sort of a pessimism and skepticism about this darker side that seems to have taken a bit too much of a hold. So, yeah, we're completely with you there, buddy. Kyle, what about you? What's your background? Tell the audience who maybe have heard you before. You've been on so many of the blockchain jeps, but for any
I think I'm a couple already. Yeah, so I'm Kyle from the UK. I met yourself, Alex, traveling around Spain, and we both had lots of podcasts. And exactly, yeah. So we got chatting. We just kept in touch, obviously. Bit of a crypto casual, but just happy to be involved and joined in the research. And yeah, a big fan of decentralization and what's gone on really the last 2 or 3 years. In the media cycle, and just kind of going through that and trying to figure out what's real and what's not. It's so confusing these days, but I think we've got there in the end, and we continue to do so.
Yeah, really, and we're grateful to have you on this journey, Kyle. The episodes we've done together have been so much fun, and it's just like a bunch of friends talking about things that we're passionate about. So glad you could join us for this pod. The other, our friend Luke, who's an Australian guy, has been sick with. He sent me a list of everything he's potentially sick with: salmonella, typhoid. It's just a laundry list of horrible stuff. So we hope he's getting better soon, and he'll hopefully join us in the next few eps. But he's a crypto OG. He's been around the game for ages, and he's seen it go from its really sort of decentralized origins and to this speculative, is that the right word, side, and he's a bit more of a skeptic around crypto, and he loves bringing out the scams, and I'm slowly trying to pull him back to the bright side of crypto as well as taking out the dark stuff. But Luke will be joining us, folks, for the next few eps. Me, you probably sick of hearing me. Like I'm like across. I do Blockchain Solidarity pods. If you haven't checked that out, check it out already. But I have to say, like, I'm not. The plan is to not have me necessarily as the main host on this pod. We're hopefully gonna, yeah, week by week do a bit of a rotation. So maybe Pudding will do it next week, Kyle the next week, or whatever. So because I'm sure the first couple of times you hear my Irish tones, it's great. But then you're like, oh, this guy's everywhere again. So that's great. And yeah, and so let's jump in and tell everyone what we're trying to do with this pod. Like if you've heard the last episode of Blockchain Solidarity, we talked about this. But for new listeners, let's dive in and tell them a little bit about what we're trying to do with this pod, and then let's get stuck into the article itself, because I think the article is the perfect example of what we're trying to do. Launch into a scam, but also pull out the tricks and the human manipulations and the psychologies and the darker sort of mechanisms as to why this happens. So, yeah, Pudding, talk a little bit about this, because you were so instrumental in this. Like, because the initial inception or conception of this pod would be, let's just every 2 weeks focus on a specific case study and bring it out, because everyone loves a good crime thriller, and we can bring out those stories. But you sort of thought, like, let's do that, guys. Let's do that. But every 2 weeks, let's dive into the why, the psychology, the darker elements. You were instrumental in that, Pudding. So yeah, to talk us about why you thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. So today we're talking about this article, the pig butchering scam, which is not a specific scam. It's a wider type of scam, and they can come in multiple forms. So the thing with this scam is it's leaning into people who are possibly like it's a cold call scam, or it's a cold connection scam, where they're kind of like looking for people who are maybe a little bit lonely, maybe not having the full connection that they want out of their life. Supposedly, it's generally targeting older people a lot of times, and one of the main mechanism is that it's a long time period scam, where you build up a relationship over a period of time that's meant to start with friendship. So you get like somebody being like, hi, that was a great time last night. And then the person's like, hey, who is this? And you're like, oh, is this not Bill? No, this is this is Fred. Who is this? Oh, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I was writing my friend Fred. You sound nice, and then it just kind of opens the door. So if somebody is already in that vulnerable space where they like the idea of like coincidentally making a friend, then this is what they're after. They're after the sort of lonely side of the world. Which, how many people out there are lonely, man? There's a lot of us.
Yeah, and you've dived straight into the article and pulled out that key human part of it, and that's just to set it back into context. That is, we want to get to that human element, and we want to focus in on what makes us vulnerable, what makes any of us like could fall victim to this in any way. What is it about the scammers that what is it, crime syndicates in this case, or it could be influencers and the likes of Logan Paul that we talked about on the Blockchange episode. It could be governments, if we're talking about like dystopias, CBDCs. We want to dive into the what, this case a pig butchering scam, but also dive into the really like sort of manipulations, and Pudding's brought out some of them there. I think it's a bit crazy, because this one just came across when I was researching what we could open with. And Pudding, you've talked before about how you've seen these in your life, like these kind of, you've just mentioned it again, like how these like text messages, you've seen them yourself. I haven't actually. I'm yet to be butchered, I guess. But actually, just today, when me and Kyle and I were talking about before this app, he actually got someone on Instagram messaging him. Kyle,
I'm
maybe you
getting
want to talk
scammed
about
right
that? But
now.
yeah, you
Yeah,
felt
I'm
like
getting
someone
scammed.
tried to reach
Literally,
out
I'm
to you
not even
today.
joking.
Yeah,
I've been chatting to a
yeah.
beautiful woman from Serbia called Nicole, and
Oh
it's incredible, man. Like, yeah, she added me on Facebook, and she goes, "Hey, have we met?" And I was like, "No, I said that actually." She goes, "Well, you seem fairly familiar. That's why I added you." And I was like, "Well, we live in different countries."
God.
And it just kind of went from there. And I thought, okay, red flag, this is a scam. And
Right.
obviously, I'm not going to hand over any details or anything. I'm still yet to decide. And that's how convincing these things can be, whether this is a real person or not. Or if it is a real person, if it is Olivia from Serbia.
Yeah, exactly. And that is how sophisticated it is. Like, you just don't know, and the whole game is to convince you that it's completely real. It might turn out to be real. We don't know. But it's
No,
one of those
it could be
cases.
the best opportunity I've ever had in my life. I'm just saying, it's a scammer. But no, I'm not joking. I'm 95% sure that's a scam. And I was just trying to see where it was going.
Yeah. Well, let's see
Yeah.
how this pig butchering scam went, because there you go. Both of these guys have at least touched into this world. I haven't yet. So let's see how this pig butchering thing. Pig butchering as well. Like, I mean, oh my god. Like, these people look at us as pigs to be butchered, right? Like, it's just, and we should say we're taking this article, guys. We'll put it in the show links. It's from a Wired article. The title is Hacker Lexicon. What is a pig butchering scam? We'll stick it in the description so you can check it out yourself. There's also a 6-minute podcast. Listen to that. But it's just so fascinating. So let's get started on it. And we've seen this. It starts off. We've seen this isn't just crypto, as Pudding alluded to. This is like just a technique that has been used in scams that are crypto and non-crypto. But right now, crypto's big, so they're using it in crypto. Um, we all, the article starts saying, like, we also see these kind of swindles in business email compromises. You ever got that email, like it's from some African kind of Nigerian prince who promises you that you're connected to their family and you're to inherit $1 billion or something like that. Romance scams, maybe something like Cal has just maybe experienced today. A hot girl going, "Hey, I know you from somewhere." This is how they entrap us at the start, and it generates billions of dollars apparently. They start with this little bit of social engineering to trick a victim into something disadvantageous, whether that's trusting someone they shouldn't or sending money into the void. So this is how it starts off, getting at our vulnerabilities. But there's something different now. It's in this article. This is why it was written. It's taken it to the next level, and everyone listening is probably like, "Pig butchering? What do you mean? Are they butchering? Like, what is this pig butchering?" Pig butchering is actually they fatten us up to the point that we're pigs, and then the butcher is like, they chop us down once we're so far. What did you guys think about that? Just pig butchering. Like, what did you think about that?
Shasupan. It was the Chinese phrase, because this all originated in China, and it was all about like getting people fat with trust, fat with hope, fat with possibility, and even giving them a little bit back. Giving them a little bit back so they believe it even more, so that you can just drain all of it, all of their bones, all of their worldly belongings, get them to like put the whole basket in, and then cut the head off.
Yeah, and I had never heard of that before. I mean, I always just assumed that they'd get you on some of your money and then they'd rip it all out. But get all of your money. They literally want to take everything from everyone. Like, it's crazy. And it's Kyle, what did you think about it? What was your gut feeling? How did this article make you think? Did you think there was anything out there that does this to people, or because I certainly hadn't
Yeah,
heard of this before.
yeah. Well, in the UK, we say, when you fatten a turkey for Christmas, basically you
Right.
feed it, get it nice, and yeah. So it's not really a pig butchering, the way that we talk about it, but yeah, very similar. And yeah, obviously, I mean, these scams have been running for years. This one's just really like a hard pill to swallow, because it gets people emotionally attached to them, and it's kind of vulnerable people, like you say, like the elderly or people that are quite secluded. And you can imagine how bad they feel after, when the penny drops and everything's gone.
Yeah, and it's just that's it. It's just gone. So let's see how it starts. So they say they'll simply get you on social media like Instagram or WhatsApp or something. How they get your contact, who knows how they get in touch in the first place? But they'll just say something like, "Hey Josh, it was fun catching up last week." And then you're like, "Oh, did I meet them in a club or something like that?" So you don't want to be rude, but that just starts it. We've all been in that space, haven't we? Like, I mean, literally any of us could fall for this, or like, just innocently engage with that. Someone hits you up on Instagram or WhatsApp or Twitter and just says, "Hey, remember we met last week?" And you're like, "Oh, well, seems legit. Maybe we did." But that's how it starts.
And they're often
like,
using like an icon of a. They're often using an icon of a pretty female, and
right.
so they'll utilize that aspect as well. So if you are lonely and you're a man, um, but they're definitely going towards friendship, and the beginning there is no pitch. So there's no pitch. They're trying to create a bond. That's the first step. And from my understanding, now with labor so cheap all around the world, you have like little mini factories in India and in Indonesia and in China where people are handed a script so they can mechanize this on a large scale and just get all of these cold contacts. You only need probably 1 in 1,000 to come through to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and honestly, as I'm reading this back, guys, like I'm just thinking, like, I could fall for this so easy. Like, so I can imagine someone like texting me going, "Hey, it was fun to see you last week at the club." And then I'd probably go, being cynical, I'd be a bit like, "Nah, I think you've the wrong number." And then that's their opportunity to strike up a conversation. Um, and guide the victim toward feeling like they've hit it off with you. So they'll probably use all sorts of psychological techniques to see that are way above our head, that they've manufactured to, because probably a lot of people will go, "Oh, I think you have the wrong number," but then they probably all they have all the plays in the book to sort of bring you back in. So that's when they'll pull you in when you're just about to leave, and we can all fall victim to that. We've all seen that before. Um, and after establishing a rapport, the attacker will introduce the idea that they've been making a lot of money in cryptocurrency. Now, isn't that the hook? Oh my God. I mean, at that stage, even if you're skeptical guys, when someone puts that in, hey, you've established little bit of credibility. Okay, you're maybe sticking around to see, oh, okay, who is this person actually? And then they go, "Oh yeah." Maybe you ask, "Oh, so yeah, what do you do with yourself?" And then they go, "I'm a trader." Oh, okay. What do you trade in? I do a little bit of that myself. Oh, Bitcoin. I've made so much money over the last few years. It's been good, bro. It's that kind of casual way they probably do
Right.
it.
Right. Yeah, and then the next step, as they kind of got you on the hook, they often will do a giveaway. They'll say like, check out the site. I'll give you your first $5. I'll give you your first $10.
Right.
They pull you into their site, which they have total control over, and it looks real. I mean, there's real money behind this. So the website looks real. I mean, it's a real website. The difference is they have control of how the numbers work. So they'll have like mainstream logistics of how the market is going up and down. It's all real time stuff. But then the accounts, they're like, "Look, we dropped in $5 into your account." And then over that week, you can see like, "Hey, you just made $15, right?
Right.
Maybe drop in your own 10." And so basically this is the fattening up. This is like they're basically spending a tiny bit to make you believe so that you will dump in more.
And that's so tempting, isn't it? You start off small. "Oh, I'm just putting in a little bit. How bad can it be? Oh, look, they've offered an incentive." And then, as you say, they have the website there. They have all the probably the sort of, it looks so real, like the sort of like graphs with the, like all the like financial graphs in there that feels so so sort of professional, if you like. But at the end of the day, they're manipulating also all of that. They're manipulating your balance going up. So who amongst us, when they've got to this stage, and they look at it over the weekend, and you see your balance going up, that's it for me. That is it. Like at that stage, I don't see how anyone kind of walks away, because it is so difficult. What do you think?
Absolutely. And for me, it just is dawning on me. Like I got really hit in the last bull market. I had some extra money I was playing around with, and NFTs were all the rave. And I was kind of like, I didn't really like the normal NFT, but there was this guy pitching this other type of NFT. It was called a Coruja. He was from Brazil. And basically the idea was that this NFT like played the market, and you bought the NFT, but it represented the market going up and down and lots of little teeny plays. And I just thinking about this right now, because I lost everything in this. I'm like, holy shit! Like it was
Right.
all I was in his world. I saw my account. I saw my account going up. I and then yes, the market did crash, but like honestly, like he might not have been investing anything. There might have been absolutely nothing being invested and moved around. I mean, I'm not saying that it was this, but that could have just been that, and it was just the modern day one, and it just tagged along with the NFTs. Because when the market dropped, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we got liquidated. The whole account got liquidated," but that's all like trusting him, which I probably shouldn't have. That was like one of my like, never again, never. I'm not doing this shit again.
Right. But it's just like, it's just there in front of our face, and this is what makes it so sophisticated. Because even people who are educated or have been in this game for a long time, it's just so sophisticated that it catches you out. Cal, what do you think about this next bit? Because I think this is especially for the noob, and and we're talking to everyone on this pod. Like, we want to talk to everyone, but because everyone can get caught in the same ways. But I think for a noob, especially this next bit, and Cal, maybe you're a bit newer to crypto than me. I'm a bit newer to crypto than Pudding, but this next bit I really resonated with me. Cal, what do you think about this? Like when they say they even allow you to take out a little bit of your crypto. And I think for noobs, that's the safe piece. They're like, oh, this can't be a scam. They just let me take out what I want, or a little bit, or whatever. I mean, if I'm taking it out, how can they run away with it? You know what I mean? So I think that is like, they call it like a verse. I don't know if I'm saying this right. A verisimilitude, is that the right word? Like a sophistication. And I think that's so insidious. Cal, what do you think? Do you think if you were like on this and they were like, yeah, you could take out things, would that make you feel like this is not a scam? Yeah.
They're just dangling the carrot, aren't they? I guess at that point. So you're like, I'll take it. We're onto a good thing here. We're making money. I'm really going on with this person. This is great, fantastic. It's everything that they told me it was. It has become. So you just continue with that. I think another thing that I've heard is that these guys can buy Instagram accounts. So they can buy followers, they can buy pictures, or they can mirror accounts as well. So if you do your homework on someone, you think, okay, well, I'll check their Instagram account or I'll check their Facebook account. They can look very convincing. So it's getting to a point now where I think the only thing that you can tell with these people is just maybe the language barrier can be a bit of a giveaway sometimes.
Right, and that's an interesting point, and we might as well dive into it now, and we can come back. We'll drop forward to that, because I think the these are like Chinese, as Pudding said, these are Chinese crime syndicates. Like, it's international, but it can happen at in any way, like local level maybe or whatever. But this particular article, it's happening at this stage. It's Chinese syndicates and international syndicates, and which blew my mind as well. They use free slave labor, and they train human trafficked women or human trafficked men or whatever, or probably poor people from around the world, and they human traffic them, and then they slave labor, and they teach them all these tactics, and then they probably put them in a factory somewhere, and go through the scripts and learn all the techniques to catch us. So this is like a sophisticated thing, but they're using like slave labor as well to get it. That was sick as well. What do you guys think about that? That made me sick to my stomach.
Yes, affordable scamology right there.
Yeah, yeah. Like it was in the neoliberal efficiency, bringing it right there. Factories in China of pig butchering scams. Like it's just, but Cal, you're right. Like the level of this goes, setting up
Yeah.
Instagram, like buying it, because everyone, you're right to bring that up, because I would probably do that. My part of my due diligence, like I don't know if you guys would do this. I'd probably go, oh yeah, I can take a little bit out. Oh yeah, number going up. Oh, let me just double check this person on Instagram. Oh, they're on Instagram. Seems legit. See a few photos of them on a beach in Thailand in the summer. Seems legit. I'm in. I can easily see how my Muggins here
Well,
with all the
this is the trick, right?
yeah.
This is the trick, right? Because they basically you put in $10 and they basically give you your $10 back, but they say this is the profit. Like you still have the other $10. Like you still have
Right.
it. It's just in the system. But take your $10 back, because then you're even. Look, you see how easy it was to double your money. So then that's the kind of the catch. Now they want you to put in $100. They want you to put it in $1,000, and they might do that 3-4 rounds. Like, oh yeah, we'll try to put in 100, see how that goes. Then they're going to give you your same 100 back, like But they're just seeing how far can we get this guy to go before you got as much. Okay, I think we've milked this guy for as much as we can. Then the site turns off, and you have no access to any of your money.
Right, and that's leading on into this article. That's what they say. That's how they get you in, little by little, but until everything that you own, like that's everything in, and it even says here, everything the scammers can get them to borrow, even so, not even everything that you own, but they'll even make you maybe take out like crypto loans against your deposits to fatten you up even more. Fatten that little piggy up, even with fucking loans. Like I read that and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like they're really like going the full hog. I was going to say full hog, but that's insensitive, isn't it? Oh my god.
They're
Oh no,
they're after like people, like these things. Like we all want to belong, we all want to feel love, we all want to feel connection, like and so then you combine that with the concept of wealth, and the concept
right.
of being able to like make money, and then so then you're like friendship and money, and it's just it's a potent cocktail to
Oh, it
to to
is.
to throw at like a lonely, bored person. you know
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't like. I mean, they say here they go after people who are vulnerable. Some of the victims are people who have had long-term health problems. Like, I mean, how do they even know who has got long-term health problems? I mean, do they find in that info? I mean, you go down that road. Like, how do they find out health data on victims? I mean, international crime syndicates have ways and means, don't they? But that's still
Probably
so
don't
sinister.
steal metadata or something. They could
Yeah.
just, these people, they can pick up on certain things. And I think if you
Mm.
respond to these people, you probably are kind of vulnerable, like, you're definitely a target for sure. They think, right, we've got a fish on the line here. You probably flash up on like 100 screens, and then they're all just basically, deciding who's going to speak to you.
Right, right, and we know with surveillance capitalism. Anyone's read that book, or even just anyone who spent the last few years or any point in time in their life over the last 10 years on social media, knows that this data, this metadata, is cross referenced, and they'll probably have ways to see that Alex fell for this scam. That our Japanese syndicate, he's on the list for the scam our Japanese syndicate partners did. So let's get him into this one. Like, there's all sorts of ways and means that they'll get you. Imagine having a health issue. You've got a really serious health issue and you need 10 grand to get life-saving treatment, especially in America, because they're so screwed over there with with their healthcare. Pudding, you probably know all about that, right? And people like. So what do you guys think? Because this is the question I had. How much is, and we've alluded to both. I want your opinion on both of your opinions on this. How much of this is where they're going for vulnerable people, lonely people, health problems people, or they're going for people who are greedy or just or bust. Like we're all broke. Nobody's like really wealthy, or more and more of us are broke. So how much of this really is like, let's pick out the vulnerable and lonely, and or how much of this is bloody well anyone could be a target who wants to get rich, or who wants to get out of their shitty life circumstances, you know? What do you guys think? Because I think everyone's a victim here. Everyone's vulnerable.
I think when you talk about poverty in China, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, sorry, quickly. I think that a lot of wealth right now is in a generation that probably are classed as vulnerable. And that's why these scams are quite successful.
What generation's that?
The elderly, for example, the people
Oh,
that are
the
kind of,
elderly.
they have,
Right.
yeah, they have computers, they have some money, they bought houses while they were very, affordable. And now there's all this money going around, and maybe they're lonely, they're old, there's no one that's going to inherit this money. And I think they're targets. In the UK, I think that's the case.
But let me, Pudding, you go on and say what you
Yeah,
were going to say, and then I've got a question.
I was just going to say that when you take the people that are doing the scams are living in poverty, it's like, yeah, okay, we don't have money, like an American maybe doesn't have money, but they do in comparison. Like there is money. You could sell something, or we are living often in times in poverty, but we have refrigerators and couches and TVs and all these things. So there is wealth there. It's just how to like tap into it. And I think that for me, it's feels like it's a lot more likely to be able to tap into the vulnerable. The greedy is a piece of it, but I actually think the vulnerable, lonely people, and it wouldn't even probably be that hard. You wouldn't even need that deep of metadata to just sort of look at some profiles and see like, oh, they only have like 30 or 50 friends, or like under 100 friends. You could probably just pick like every Facebook account or every Instagram account that only has a really small amount of friendships, and you're hiring your possibility that the person is lonely, right?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say, I get all that, but I just wonder, is there a dynamic difference between sort of relationship that brings you in on sort of because when you suggest the lonely thing, are we looking for friendship and that's the techniques they put us in? Are we looking for relationship? That's the kind of lonely, and that's the techniques they bring in. Are older people lonely for relationships? I mean, they might have lost their partners, and but being with someone when you're older isn't necessarily your priority. You've lived that life, but maybe it's just friendship. And here's the other point I had, and this is what it could be any and all of these. So it's a little bit academic, but I think it's interesting to get into. We're talking about now the crypto scams, right? Pig butchering crypto scams, because this is a crypto dark pod. Is it the elderly generation that would bite for a crypto scam, or is that the younger generation? You know,
I think with the younger generation, you're in like the where you get the greed and the FOMO, and the older you're getting the lonely. And then there's probably some sort of crossover between 30 and 40. We naturally, as we get older, have less friends and less connections. And we start thinking of ourselves as being a lonely old person. Your brain naturally starts going to these places. So there's probably a script for both. Like there's like, oh, this person seems like they want a girlfriend. Okay, we go with the girlfriend script. Oh, this person seems like they don't have any friends or any relationship. All right, we go with the friendship like one. And then this person seems like they're greedy. Oh, go with the greedy version. I'm sure that there's scripts for each of these dynamics.
Oh yeah, and they've probably in these factories of like human traffic for slave laborers in China, they've got, as you say, all the scripts, and then they've picked. They've even amongst the people who are doing it, the slave labor who are having to do this, the syndicate has probably even profiled them. Of course they have. Here's the human trafficked sexy woman from Croatia who can flirt with the lonely Westerner, right? The young lonely Westerner, or here's the soft talking, slightly older guy slave laborer who can talk to the older lonely, needs a friend in Stoke-on-Trent in England, in cold Stoke-on-Trent on a cold night. Like, so there's probably scripts on both ends. That's what makes it so insidious. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's keep going here, because I think like we've touched on this human trafficking thing, and I think that's that's the other side of it that makes it so dark. And like I said, this is not just about the scammers and what they're up to, and like the sort of the techniques and manipulations and on a global scale with the syndicates. And it's not just about us getting scammed, but if we're to figure out how to end all of this, we have to realize like the extent of it. And they're bringing in like kidnappings, forced labor to do this. So I mean, we don't have to get into it now, but I read that, and it just really struck me, because I used to work for an NGO that was trying to prevent human trafficking. So it's an issue close to my heart. But how do you even begin as a government, or as these people who are like us, who are into decentralized networks? How do we even stop Chinese crime syndicates who are kidnapping and forced labor and human trafficking, and then doing, because is that beyond the state? Like, I mean, how do, like, maybe it's academic. I wanted your opinion on it, guys. Like, how do you get around that? What do you think, Pudding?
Well, I was just kind of thinking about this, and these are much deeper things, because how do you end this? You have a sort of a basic human like standard, but because of the levels of poverties, and because of the inequality that exists out there, where we are sitting around staring at our phones, that somebody had to go and like potentially take on toxins in some mines in Africa, or wherever they're doing it at. And so you have clustered people in poverty providing for kind of the fat pigs that we're talking about. There's almost like a social justice to it, that like, these places are taking advantage of people who are getting advantage, if that makes sense. Like, we have all these advantages. We were born into Western countries, and we don't really care about how this iPad or this cell phone was created. We only care that we have it. And then now here is somebody else kind of coming in and targeting that person who is kind of taking advantage of somebody without fully being aware of it. And then here we got other people actively aware and taking advantage. So there's almost like this sort of perfect circle going on.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Totally agree with that. We don't see the families, going off to work and down the mines to get the lithium, for all of our luxuries that we have here. So, I mean, yeah, if they've got a little chance to get a one up on us, they're probably going to take it.
right. And so that's why I think now, and this is I'm leading somewhere with this, because when I think, Peter, you were saying you were dissatisfied with what the article recommends as solutions. Let's get onto that in a second, but let me lead into it, because folks listening are like, okay, guys, you've spent the last 35 minutes like talking about that. It all sounds horrible. Like, we want to vomit, and oh my god, but it's been educational. Thank you. We'll avoid it, and all this. But I think the solutions. I think people want to hear the solutions, because it's dissatisfying not to talk about, just present all this, and then not talk about how the fuck we avoid it and get out of it. But I think the solutions and what's happening out there is just not satisfactory, right? So the point that you guys said, like, people across the world, how can we judge them? We don't. But I equally don't judge people who are falling victim to this. And in this article, like, I just don't like it, in the sense that it's like, the FBI recommends that you just don't get involved, and you just don't pay them, like ransomware attacks they compared it to. Don't pay the hackers' demands. It's like, dude, FBI dudes, like, people are struggling. Like, it's not just easy like that. Like, yeah, have some wherewithal. Don't pay the hacker, dude. It's like, no, like, that's too simple an issue. Like, you maybe trying to think, when you're trying to think of this as a systemic issue, and how do we avoid this on a bigger level. I think where I'm leading with this is like, okay, we can do this podcast, and we can reach people on an individual level to avoid it. But once you're in it, it's really hard to get out of. And I don't like this, like, oh, you're stupid for getting involved, walk away, or you're too weak if you don't, or they're bad people over there for doing it. It's like blockchain is about systemic solutions, and I think we have to think bigger than that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think well, with artificial intelligence only getting more impressive and better, these scams are going to be even more convincing, aren't they? So I think just the old saying, if something's too good to be true, it probably is. I think you've really got to, just go away at that point, really, or at least be really, really, alert to what might be happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For me, you gotta take into consideration that the that people need connection. And so I think hearing this and knowing that you need connection and that you're that person, that you're a person that could be like attacked by a scam like this, that's half of the thing is having a self-aware realization of yourself and actually filling the needs that you have in better places than some random person that you find online. The real trick is getting people to be a little bit self-aware so that they recognize, like, I'm a little bit lonely, I'm vulnerable to this scam is happening, and like, what could I do? I could actually try to like make actual friends in my real life. So that, we're kind of getting into like a little bit of like self-help territory, but I mean, the truth is if you really want to get into the crypto game, like, you need to start like studying, and you need to start like paying attention, and you shouldn't dive into anything quick. Nothing is quick or should be quick. So I guess people need to figure out, like, am I vulnerable to a lonely scam? Am I vulnerable to a FOMO scam? Which one of those things is me? And then just sort of recognize it. Half of the battle is just knowing it exists and knowing who you are and what would be targeted at you. I would get sucked by the FOMO scam.
Yeah, yeah, and I go ahead, Carl.
I just said, yeah, you're a FOMO sapien.
I'm a FOMO sapien.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, we are FOMO. It's so strong. We'll have to do an episode on FOMO soon because that is. Ugh. But yeah, I agree. I agree. Like, I think it's 50% or half the battle is what we can do on this pod. What we'll hope to do, is make people aware of these things so that they can sort of learn and recognize themselves and recognize scams. But that is only half the battle. Like, but I think the other half has to be systemic. And even if it's like the blockchain world taking more of an active protocol level thing collaboratively, I don't know how they would do it. But there's a big part of the blockchain world that hates this kind of stuff because it's bringing down the reputation of blockchain and Web3. So is there a way we can, like...
Well, that's because those guys are scammers.
Hacker them, or...
Anybody that doesn't want people to learn about scams and they don't want you to think about the negative sides of crypto and Bitcoin, like, they are most likely the scammers themselves. Because anybody that really wants to push a revolutionary spirit forward where we really do dismantle some of these mechanisms that are above us, anybody that truly wants world change and change needs to like learn about all of this darker side of things so that we can guide it in the correct direction.
Right. But I think my question is, like, I think teaching individuals one by one is good, but it's not going to win the battle because look at these crime syndicates. They're like factories full of this, and they're getting thousands of people scammed, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people scammed every year. So even if there was a million pods like us, I don't know if we would reverse the trend or reverse those numbers. So I'm thinking, like, the blockchain world almost needs to create decentralized protocols, applications, global work, because I don't trust government. I don't know if any of us do. I do not trust the FBI or any national government to even be serious about this. All they do is like little efforts here and there, blah blah blah. But I think the blockchain world has to develop something systemic.
mean, there's some of these scam, like kind of alert sites. There's some like whistleblower type sites that are analyzing. But this is back again to the very nature of this thing that we're calling for, decentralization. It's just like it's sort of like you need a centralized message in the decentralized world to warn you about the mechanisms of decentralized scams. You know, it's like there's definitely some ironies going on in here.
There's a really good page called the War on Rugs. I don't know if you know that website at all.
What was it?
The War on Rugs. Do you remember that one?
Oh, the War on Rugs.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it was a guy that was telling everyone about the scams, but then ended up scamming everybody.
Oh, that's what we talked about on the last episode. Yeah. That was the safe mode. We talked about that on the last ep. The guy
you got to watch out for those guys as well.
Good point. Like, exactly. And that's, again, but that's centralization to an extent, isn't it? It's centralized in that one dude. Do you know what I mean? So there's just, you can't trust centralized power in anything to do it enough, to do it, even trust them that they have good intentions. The best way to do this, and this is where Web3, and this is again us setting the dark against the light. What is the potential light solution to this, folks? It's like, imagine a distributed network around the world where any and all of these scams are brought up in registries across the world, cross-referenced. A signal goes up, like Lord of the Rings, you know, like the light goes up and then the light goes up somewhere else, and that's how they know they're going to war, you know, like the whole distributed network just becomes aware immediately of these scams anywhere. Trends, patterns, boom, boom. And then, you know, even protocols then could take those reports, take that information and put money towards it. Should it be a public good to crack down on scams in crypto?
You know, I'm not a technical person, but I mean, I would think that there would not be that hard to code something that like using AI to like find people that are seeming like scammers and tag in a message that anytime they send a message, another message comes right behind it that says, you might want to be aware that that last message might be from a person of disrepute, like there could be just these like mechanisms in it. That could just be some random hacker dude that wants to make a change, just codes this thing that like spots the hi, did you have fun last night conversation, and then a message follows right behind it. You know, I don't know. Obviously, like this is like the classic non-technical person being like, "Yeah, somebody just code that shit." But you know, but I do think it's there.
Yeah, and there's probably, and I am a firm believer in you as well. There is code solutions. There will be all sorts of good solutions. Public good funding. Who the hell knows? But I think maybe this is the point that we can make. Maybe we don't know how the answers will look or the solutions will look, technical or otherwise. But I think we can agree that the crypto blockchain world is not taking this. It's not taking this seriously enough. This is happening too much, and the normies and people who aren't in crypto, it's tarnishing the reputation of crypto. So I think the blockchain Web3 world, who are on the good side, need to have a serious think about how we actually like battle this on a systemic level, so motivation must be there. The solutions will follow, you know, but I just don't think they're there at the minute. And we can do some good on this pod, and you can reach individual people, and that's brilliant, but we need something more as well. Let's end it there, because I think that's a good way to end it. Fascinating discussion. My God, like reading that article was tough to stomach, and I hope people enjoyed this and spread the word, because we have to put a stop to these things in any small way that we can. But yeah, what was your, just to end it on, what was your gut feeling around that, guys? Like, does this make you really want to highlight these kind of stories going forward? You know, because it was hard to read that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested into like really diving into like the more specific, the more real tangible stories that we can get. That I think is where we can really start breaking ground, when we can be like, look at this. This is what happened. Here's, you know, each week if this was a little bit more broad, but if we pick very specific ones and we dissect them, I think that there's a great deal of learning to be had and realization within, for ourselves and others.
Yeah, absolutely. Cal, what do you think? Did that make your stomach churn? Did it want to drive you on to keep doing this?
Yeah, definitely. And I think because if you know anybody in your social life that might be vulnerable or might be at risk
Right.
to fall to any of these people, maybe just have a chat with them, and just say, look, I've heard about this thing, because there's no shame in it. It can happen to anybody. And
Right.
there's a lot of targets out there. Obviously, it's it's happening right now, so to speak, everywhere.
Exactly. And we can think of the 5 closest people in our lives, and I'm sure everyone can think of someone who needs to save that extra 10,000 for to want to get a mortgage for the home, or they've got a wedding coming up, or they've just lost a wife or a partner or something. Everyone in their lives has got something that makes them vulnerable. So anyone out there who's like, I'm not vulnerable, those vulnerable people are dumb and they deserve to be scammed. Like, no, we have to think like every one of us has some frailty, and that's what makes us all vulnerable in some way. It could be greed, it could be any not even greed, like, it could be like we're struggling in some way, or we have a health issue, something. So this goes out to absolutely everyone needs to learn. Pass this around your friends, and hopefully you can get something good out of this, and your friends too. So share it on your networks, and thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll do this every 2 weeks. Thanks for joining, guys. Thank you for joining. Pudding, you can probably host the next one. I'll take a break. But Cal, you can jump on the next one. But yeah, thanks guys for joining.
Thanks,
Definitely.
Cool.
Nice. See you on the next one.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Take it easy.
See you on the next one.
Cheers. Bye.
Take it easy, guys. Cheers. Bye.